Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, from the last day of the Abu Dhabi International Book Fair. It's been a long week, but it's been an interesting week, it's been a challenging week, and it has been an inspiring week, and we're not stopping there, because our next session on the main stage that's about to begin is all about food. Who's hungry? Me. I haven't had my breakfast yet. I would like to invite you to the main stage, ladies and gentlemen, to discover a cornucopia of food stories from ladies from around the world who are here in the UAE. I would like to invite you to come and sit and then probably go and have something to eat afterwards, because you will be hungry. This is a mouth-watering session, and we're going to welcome onto the stage Naouel with her beautiful book, Memorable Flavours. So, on the stage, in around about 2 minutes, we will be welcoming her onto the stage and listening to her. And if we listen really, really carefully between what she's saying, we might actually hear our tummies rumbling too. So I'm inviting you to the main stage, ladies and gentlemen, to start at 11 a.m. to come and hear about the memorable flavours. Thank you.
Here we are. You want to be here?
It piques your curiosity about the lesser-known forms of Indian cuisine.
Marhaba, my name is Jumana Al-Tamimi. I'm a Jordanian of Palestinian origin. I'm sharing with you my story with thyme, za'atar, which is famous in Palestine and Jordan, and I hope you will be able to smell it while reading my story. Thank you.
Buongiorno, I'm Gaia Moncada di Paternò. I was born in Italy, Sicily, Palermo. My story is Sicily, scent, taste and traditions. And my recipe is an ancient pasta-based recipe called timballo alla palermitana. I hope that by the end of my story, you will feel a scent of Sicily and understanding of our traditions. Enjoy!
Hi, I'm Hanifa. I am Algerian living in Dubai for almost 40 years. My story is called The Gift That Keeps Giving. It's the relationship between the woman of my life and the olive tree. The semblance is resilience and abundant giving. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Riwa, and I'm Syrian American. My story's title is Summer Tasseography. I discuss the 3 different types of coffees and the stories that stem from coffee cup reading.
Good day, alle sammen. Hello, everybody. My name is Jenny Smerup Nielsen. I'm from Denmark. My chapter is called frikadella, which is the little small fried meatballs that is a very big part of the Danish kitchen and loved by big and small. I particularly associate this dish with my maternal grandmother, and this is what my story is about.
Vanakkam, I'm Deepa Vinay from India. My story, Pongalin Yezhu Curry Kootu Otrume in Suvai, translates to Pongal's 7 curry kootu, the taste of togetherness. With my story, I hope to take you through my culture, which I deeply cherish and continue to celebrate in Dubai.
Marhaba, I'm Hind Saeed. I'm an Iraqi New Zealander. My story dates the time we were home. It's about the date season in Iraq. My recipes are about dates and how you eat date syrup with food.
Hi everyone, my name is Dina Spahi. I'm Syrian and American. The title of my story is A Tale of Two Tacos. In it, I share two recipes, one with a Southern California vibe and one with an Arab twist. And I hope that these two show you how two cultures can be bridged through food.
Bonjour, Sabah el Khair. My name is Keltumesh Barbarada. I'm Moroccan. My story title is Laylatul Qadr, and my recipe is called couscous with vegetables and couscous tfaya. My story will let you live the magic of that special day through the tradition of Morocco.
مساء الخير. Hello, my name is Naouel Chaoui. I am Algerian and Italian. My story is Taqtar al-Zhar, which means the distillation of flowers. It is an anchored tradition in my mother's family. The story depicts my childhood experience of this annual spring ceremony.
Fantastic. Test 1, 2. Testing the audio. Superb. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for being here. This is going to be an amazing session. If you love anything to do with food, like I do, anything to do with travel, because this will take you around the world, anything to do with culture, anything to do with family, anything to do with tradition, this is the place for it. So cozy on up. We're going to have a great conversation. It's a conversation between me and Naouel, but also a conversation between me, Naouel, and 12 other ladies with some amazing stories. And I really, really enjoyed every single second of reading them. It just reminded me so much of things. I could relate to so much. So I'm wondering, was that what you had in mind when you wrote the book? Because, you know, immediately everything you talked about, I was like, I remember this, I remember that. You know, I lived this. I had that experience as well. So tell me, Naouel.
Thank you for having me here. Thank you for your kind words. I'm very happy to be here to be sharing this with everyone. This is exactly the goal of the book. You hit it. Our stories were absolutely meant to be like this, where people, whoever reads one of the stories, would reflect himself or herself into at least a little bit of every story. Now, I just wanted to express that I am here representing 12 authors. They couldn't make it today, so I'm very proud of representing all my co-authors, who without them, this would haven't been happening. So, yeah.
Amazing, amazing. It's such an amazing book. And I know that earlier you were saying, you know, things happen, you know, by chance and for a reason. You told me about how you met His Excellency, Mr. Afkham, and how he was a big supporter of this book, without whom I'm assuming the book might have not happened, maybe. So a thank you to His Excellency, Mr. Afkham, who is in Fujairah, whom you met, had a conversation with, and he said, I'm supporting this book. That's how much he believed in this book. But tell me a little bit more about how the UAE was maybe the right place for this book to happen in the way that it did.
Definitely, yes. I don't think this book would have even happened, or I would have had the idea of going for a project like this. But the UAE has been the right platform, the right encouragement, and through time, having been here for many, many, many years, I could learn so much from people around me. And I could mix with so many nationalities. Name the nationality, you have it. And the openness, and really the people who fascinated me are the Emiratis themselves. Because, you know, at the beginning I thought, oh, coming from a place where everyone is from the country, and you have the people who come in, you know, the foreigners, you have this, you are the extra, you are the other person, and you are not accepted the way we felt home here. So I was always admiring the Emiratis having this openness, his capacity to open up, to speak to everyone, to not see the difference between one and the other. And I said, all right, so we have the right platform to sit and think. What can we do to give an example in a different way, reading a book and saying, wow, I mean, all these nationalities sat together, put things down, you know, stories which are very authentic without any difficulty. And we had the best time ever. It was a better time than when I meet parents at school, a better time and fun when I am invited for dinners here and there, because we really shared things that were so intimate for our families. And there were so many anecdotes, and we related so much to each other. And every time there was something coming up, or we were reading each other's stories and drafts at that time, we were saying, oh my God, you have this, we do have the same. And we were speaking about Algeria, India, not, you know, Mediterranean countries that look alike or they have the same. So that was such an enriching experience that I really wish these kind of experiences would happen more. And this is not going to stop here. There is more to come. And we really want to reach out, not only the UAE people who already know about it. I mean, this is nothing new to them, but I would love this book to reach out all the world and, you know, show that we can really learn from each other rather than fearing each other.
It's beautiful. You know, when I was reading the book, I felt like in every story, and you should know, I don't want to give the whole book away, but the 12 writers in the book, not all of them are Arab, but I felt like there was a part of Arabic tradition or culture sewing it all together. Maybe that is what you kind of meant to do, but I love that. There was something that brought them together. Tell me about how your relationship developed with these women as you wrote this book, the catalyst for your relationship.
Well, the first thing you said is interesting. You saw that there was an Arab thing related there. It's through your eyes. Because if someone else reads it, the person would see her own culture through that.
That's so interesting. I love that.
Yeah, I distributed the book to many different people who didn't even know about the project. And it was exactly the same sentence you said. And even in Italian, I thought because I had some Italian side, they said, oh my God, I feel like there is a lot of Italian flair. And I said, no, it's not that. It's that it's very international. So it's interesting what you say, because each one who is of a different culture reads this book, say, oh my God, I reflect my own inside. So, you know, so it has nothing, I didn't do anything.
It's so amazing, because I even think, you know, even the stories in Sicily, and there's that Arabic element in Sicily.
I mean,
right?
Sicily, definitely, yes, because Sicilian were invaded by Arabs, and they have a lot to do with the Arabs.
Yeah, even the tacos.
Yes.
So there's a great taco recipe in there, guys. You have to read this book. And even the tacos, the msakhan tacos, even though it's not called msakhan, it says, you know, chicken in cubes with sumac, which I loved. Yeah. But I don't know. I saw that everywhere.
Dina, I don't want to give away the story, but it's good it's interesting, because Dina, who wrote the tacos, she's of a Syrian origin and lived in the United States. Yeah. And she had parents who were cooking, you know, the Arabic food family. But outside, she was eating the tacos, and she was a big fan of tacos. Wow. She's still.
The fish tacos, I love that as well.
Yes, and what she did is that she gave the two recipes, the recipe of a taco, which is the taco, American taco, and then she gave the recipe also of the Syrian taco. So she said, this is my way of bridging the two cultures. Yeah. So she already did the job in her own story.
Brilliant.
And then inserting it into this book has been, you know, an enriching story for everyone. Now, our relationships. There are some co-writers I knew either because we worked together earlier. Hind is here. She used to be my colleague, and we are very good friends now when we were working at the Emirates Literature Foundation. And we are staff of the Emirates Literature Foundation.
Big shout out to the Emirates Literature Foundation.
Thank
They
you.
do an amazing
Yes,
job all the time.
without them and their encouragement and Isabel's encouragement, I don't think this would have happened. And there are other people I met by chance. And when I say by chance, many people say there is nothing called by chance. I believe in that. Jumana, I met her on a beach, and she just asked me the time. And it's amazing, she asked me the time, and we were swimming in the middle of the water. I had my watch, and I said the time. She said, "Are you French?" Because I was speaking French with one of my children. And I said, "No, I'm Algerian." And I said, "Where are you from?" She said, "I'm Palestinian." At that time, the book was in my head. So I was like thinking of the stories of the nationalities to put in, but I never selected any nationality. Whoever I would meet would have been welcome to write. So then talking, she said, "Well, I'm in between jobs and I'm a journalist." I said, "Do you want to keep your time busy meanwhile you find a job?" And this is how I invited her to write a story. And she came up with this Zaatar story, and I found so authentic and so beautiful.
Phenomenal.
And through these exchanges of our emails, there was COVID when we wrote the book. So we could meet through Zoom. We met physically once or twice, but even through Zoom, but it was through our stories that we started knowing each other. So the questions started coming up, and then we were like, each one were saying, "Yeah, you're saying this, but what do you mean by that?" But it was good to see it through different eyes. Because many things for us are taken for granted. And you realize them only when you start telling them to others who don't know anything about your culture. And then we have, through all those laughs and stories and, anecdotes that we told each other, the freedom part where you sneak, the spitting, olives, Hanifa, there are things that we really miss. And then we started thinking of what are we giving our new generation? What are we giving our children? Do we really want our children to be able to write the stories we did? I don't think we expect this from them. But as far as I'm concerned, and as far as the co-writers who are concerned are, as far as what we cook triggers a nice recording, like we remember the family, and this is where comes the family. It's not all about food, but it's about how and in what conditions this food was shared. And what does this food trigger in us? A smell, a spice, a gathering. And this is what, when I think of my rose water that I use every day for different reasons, I don't think of the rose water, but I feel those moments I was sharing with my family, my cousins, the little ones, etc. Now, I'm very happy when I cook something Algerian in Italy, and the boys come in, they would from downstairs say, "No way, you cooked this today." So, and they would tell you, "Oh, it is good, but the way mommy, who is the grandma, cooks it, and the way we sit all together and we eat from the same plate is different."
Amazing.
So that is more than enough. These are the moments we want people to feel when we are either outside or even in the country.
Amazing. You said the magic word. When I read this book, shout out to grandmothers all around the world. Really, like every story that I read in this book had some sort of link to grandmothers.
Absolutely.
Right? Tell me about this and your experience personally, but also, without giving away too much, maybe a couple of anecdotes around the 12 writers, around their grandmothers.
Well, yes, the common thread that you would see here is the grandmother. Why is the grandmother? At the end of the day, you understand that the mothers do the education, they take care of you, and they are rough because we have the principles and the rules to be followed. So they are, we love the mothers, but the mothers are here to give us the rules.
The discipline and the straight path.
With all their love, of course. But the grandmothers are, for us, the quality time. The time we can do things that are not allowed by rules,
Yeah.
but at the grandmother we can do them.
Oh, yeah.
We eat sweets at the grandmother's, we sleep late at the with the grandmothers, and it's all over the world. When we were speaking about our stories, you know, when you start laughing or there is an anecdote, there is a grandmother behind it.
There's right, yeah.
So as far as my story is concerned, the grandmother was the freedom, was the house of doing anything I want. And they were so busy, all the cousins, the aunties, that we could do whatever we wanted, but nobody would bother.
Yeah.
Because it was the freedom place. And I remember my grandmother used to say, hey, if you want to educate your children, do it in your houses. In my house, they do the way I want. And this is exactly what my mother now tells me about my kids.
kids,
When
amazing.
I take kids home and they start, you know, eating junk food or doing, she goes, hey, these things you do them the whole year round. When they are on holiday at my place, this is the way
So
it
it's
is.
the same in everybody's house, it's the same
And
in our
it is
house.
the same with, I suppose it's always the same.
Absolutely.
So this is why the grandmothers, whenever we speak about something so tender,
Yeah.
something like freedom
Yeah.
or, you know, little bit of naughtiness.
Yeah, yeah, where you break all the rules.
We break all the
You
rules.
go to grandma to break all the rules.
You see, people are
Everybody's
nodding
like
here.
nodding.
So,
I remember I have this story. So my grandmother always had, and I don't know if this sweet exists. Actually, I do know it does exist. It was like a milk toffee. It was white, and it has a cow on it, and it was called the milk. I don't know if anybody, if you lived in the UAE, you'd know that. My grandmother always had some in her pocket. She'd always give me one of these. And I loved it when I was growing up. Recently, I came across this, and I had it. It did not taste the same. I mean, Grandma, Allah yarhamha, is not around anymore, but it's just not the same, you know?
Absolutely, yes.
And I think I read a lot of that in the stories about how a lot of these recipes and moments that we've felt in the past might not quite be the same today. Do you agree with that? Is there a meal that you eat today and you're like, you know what? When I was little and grandma and mom made this, it's not the same. You feel that way?
Absolutely, yes. I feel that way. Even if you cook it the same way, sometimes my mother is standing in front of me, my grandmother was standing in front of me, I was cooking it the same way they do. The taste is totally different.
It doesn't taste the same.
It's the love.
Cerebral.
And
It's in the mind. It's in the head, right?
Absolutely.
What do you guys think, the audience? You guys feel the same way? Do you guys think like, you know, certain things are just not the same as they were before, right? Especially when it comes to food. They're connected to the memory. Agree. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Amazing. I actually went through a few of the stories, or I went through all of them, but I underlined one line which I liked, which, you know, I'd love to kind of, you know, dive into that without having to give away everything. The first one is in the first story by Bebe Huang.
Yes.
And she says, quote, "I did not know how to cook, iron clothes, or look after myself. I even recall having to phone my parents in China to ask how much water I need to make instant noodles." Really good. And you know, as I read the whole thing, I couldn't help but think, you know, does this speak to us, the learning of cooking? I can't help but feel that it kind of connotates with independence and success. Do you agree with that? Because a lot of the ladies in here talk about, you know, when I was little, I didn't pay attention. When I grew up, I did it. And then I was like, yes, I got it right, finally. You know, after skipping a generation, maybe. Do you feel that the people feel that way?
Well, I feel that I don't think we need, it's like there is, you know how to cook or you don't know how to cook. I don't think it is a must either way. But that you really want to revive that palate, that sense of memories through what you want to cook is the goal of it. I mean, it has never been in my family, cooking is a must. My mother was the best cook ever, but I hated cooking because I used to see her in front of those pots days and hours, and I would say, oh my God, I would never do this. This is really a waste of time. Because I didn't realize how much it was important when she was serving that dish and the love she would put in it when we took it for granted. It is only when you leave and you are away that you start really missing it. And you want to cook it, and then you're stuck, and you start calling, and you start, fortunately there is technology now, there is the videos where you have. But I'll tell you something about Bebe that is good to know. Bebe is the one child, as you know, a Chinese family. Her mother is Japanese, she's Chinese-Japanese, and her father is Chinese. And it's the father's noodles she's talking about.
Oh, it's fantastic, by the way. I love those, the yopo noodles.
Exactly. And I met her at a common friend, we didn't know each other, at a dinner. And we happened to sit one close to the other. It was a big, huge table. And I started having the usual conversation. How long have you been in Dubai? Do you like Dubai? And she's married to a person who lives in hotels. His job is a hotel manager. So I said, do you have a kitchen at home? Do you cook? She said, I love cooking. I said, but do you cook? She said, well, it's quite difficult in the kitchen. I have, and we move place all the time, so I don't have all my ingredients and my pots. And I said, but do you have any food that you would love to, when you are tired and you feel like relaxing, what food would you crave? And she says, she was speaking, she was very, let's say, official, and then as soon as she spoke about her father's noodles, she had a totally different face and look. And she said, I really miss my father's noodles. And this is where I said, there she is.
That's the one.
And then I said, tell me a little bit more about the noodles. And then when she started speaking about the noodles, she never talked about any ingredient, about the noodle itself, but she was speaking about how her father was doing it, how her father was asking her to eat it. And it was the whole memory more than the recipe that came up. And this is how I said, what about you write to me this story? And she said, but I've never written any stories. And I said, so you say it on the phone, and then you write it down. Yeah. And this is how she participated. And what came up has been it is an amazing story. Because it enlightens us a lot about the history, China, how they grow up.
The one-child generation.
Exactly. That is something we never understood because we are
phenomenal.
different.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
I have a lot more questions, but I also want this to be very kind of, open. Does anybody have any questions that you would like to?
Yes, please do.
Yeah,
it's
please.
An open.
And then I'll come back to my questions as well so that we can make good use of the hour.
So all the authors are women. Was this intentional or it just happened that this was what you decided?
Wow, you know that I didn't even think about that? That's a great question. I didn't even think about it.
There are a lot of men who love cooking. So would the second book, would you think of including men in?
That's a very good question. Thank you. And I'm very happy being, it's the first, I used to be having women moderators. And it's the first time I have a man moderator who reads the book carefully. So I'm very happy to hear that. It was by chance. All happened because when I was working at the Emirates Literature Festival and the foundation, I was attending book clubs, and it all happened through a book club. The book clubs were either in Arabic or in English, and you had to choose a book and speak about it. Being a little bit a no-rules person, I said, okay, what a pity. We live in a country where we have so many nationalities, and language is going to become a barrier. Because if you make me read a book in English and I have to express myself in English, I have to feel that I wouldn't belong to that book club because I wouldn't be able to express myself. And then I came up, Isabel is not here anymore, but she would have been, I went to Isabel and I said, you know what, I have an idea. I want to invent a new book club. And she goes, what do you mean inventing a new book club? Do you want to do a French or an Italian? I said, no, I want an international book club. And she said, I would like to see that. I said, leave it to me. So I put a platform where I invited people from different cultures and languages, and I give a theme to the book club. And I say, okay, this month we're going to speak about love. Read a book in your own language. Let's meet. If you speak a broken English, no problem. We are here to help you. And it is a good opportunity to learn the language and communicate, and we will all be people. Maybe we will have a native English speaker, but we will all be at the same level, so you shouldn't worry. And it was a morning book club. Guess who comes in the morning to the book club? Women, most of us, because, you know, our husbands were working. And I happened to have one or two men, but not for a long time. And this is how the book club became a women platform book club. And it is still existing. It's been now 6 years.
Amazing.
It is huge. It's now on a Zoom because many people connected from Australia, from anywhere you want, and it's on a monthly basis. And this is how I could again, because this idea was munching in my head for a long time, I could prove that we could sit together without even being able to communicate, as I say, properly, like accurately, but we could understand each other. And they were subjects, and this is how we discovered each one books and writers from different languages and different countries that we had never heard of. This is how some of the writers here are from the Readers' Majlis, which is the book club. And it happened to be women. And then we started enlarging the group, and I found out that women are not the best people to carry memories, but let's say this is not my belief, but it is what we noticed through the 12, and I'll tell you why 12. Through the 12 women, that we mothers are the ones usually who are keen, or not keen, but who carry those memories through the children. Because maybe we spend more time with them, but it is not a rule, and it happened by chance. Now, the number 12 is the number of the months of the year. And this means evolving in time. So the next year will be 12 other women from 12 other different nationalities than this one for the next book. Still women. I don't want to be feminist. I don't want to talk about women empowerment, but I love working with men.
Amazing. I'm going to come back to myself. I'm going to go to your story, Naouel. And on the first page, you write, to all the women in my family who subtly taught me to cultivate our traditions and value our culture. So, reading through the story, the question that I have for you is, when did you finally learn the art of distillation? Tell me some stories about that and what you're doing today with distillation of either rose or my zahar, as we call it, orange blossom. Tell me a little bit about that.
Fine. I said the word subtly because I was never taught to, you have to, you should, you do, come here and learn it. Never. It was done around me, in front of me, but at the time of the distillation, when I was small, I was looking forward to it just because it was the freedom time. I would go around and do anything but distillation. I didn't even know how that pot was for or what those utensils were for. But, it was the fun of what was around that distillation, what was happening around it, the gathering, the cakes, the sweets, the chatting, the gossiping, and this is what I really loved, the freedom going out in the gardens and with these flowers, and it was the scent and the scent and the scent. And it was only when I left Algeria, and I used to receive, it is still going on every year, I receive my dose, as I call it, of that coming from that flower distillation. And it was when I used to receive it, at that time I had left and I was in Italy and was roaming around different countries, and that bottle that I used to receive was sacred to me because it was coming from that beautiful memory I had. And it was only when I started using it that I was saying, oh, how beautiful were those days. But still, I was not interested by all what was going on and how the distillation was happening until my kids were born. And then I was telling stories about my childhood, and I started telling them about the story of the distillation because they were wondering, what is this rose water and why are you cherishing so much? And I was telling them the story. And I was stuck because I didn't, of course the children start asking, but what is the pot? Show us. how does it work? And I was like, oh. So then I started writing the story, and I started looking at the different parts, and I asked my mother to send me a movie, and I still have it, where she explains to me how all this was working, because I was not convinced by Wikipedia or, going on Google. I said, that's a shame, So I said, Mom, pick up that pot, show me exactly how it works. And she did it with my sister taking the video. And this is how I really understood how it worked. And I was more and more excited to write a story about it.
Amazing, amazing. The Wikipedia gurus are sitting here in the front as well. He's not paying attention, but so in the future we might need a wiki page on how to do this distillation of rose and orange blossom. So amazing, amazing. I'm going to go to another story. This one is from the story from Sicily by Gaia Moncada di Paterno, and she says, in our home, the kitchen is a meeting point, not only for us, but also for our friends who enrich us with new culinary ideas. And she goes on to talk about a lot more things that happen over a table or a sufra on the floor, as we call it. And it's interesting because this is a big part of Bedouin and Arab culture over here. There's this saying that says you break bread together and then you become friends. In the saying, it says you're not enemies, which means you're friends. Sure. What do you think? I mean, everybody obviously has been around the world and is now in the UAE. What do you think it is that brought them here and kept them here in the UAE, all of the 12, and yourself included?
Well, I think Gaia Moncada never says her title. She's a princess.
Yeah. I didn't want to give it away, but yes.
No, I give it away because she never wants to give it away. It is amazing how you always think, being a princess, you don't even go into the kitchens. But her love of, she found out her, the beautiful ambiance that was happening in the house was not with the parents and the family where the rules were strict, but it was in the kitchen with the cooks and all what was going on.
Brilliant.
So the whole story actually is more about this than about, what brought us to the UAE is fate, is, as we say in Arabic, maktub, okay? You never plan to go to a place. I remember I was in another planet, another world, and when my husband said, we have to go to the UAE, I literally said no. Because I had a job, I was busy, and I was scared of going to a place I didn't know, and maybe I wouldn't work. The prejudice that you have. Well, I came very long time ago. So we all came because we either followed our husbands, or we had a job, or we had something that dragged us, or we visited and we loved it, like my husband did, and he said, why not? But then what kept us here and what made us say that the UAE is home? I traveled and lived in so many countries. I loved those places. I mixed with the people. They are still my best friends, but I never felt at home. To me, yes, I am from, and I am going back. But then I would have never thought that one day all of us would have been sitting here and talking about our homes and saying, come to my house, I will show you what we eat, and I will cook it here. So what brought us here is what would have brought us anywhere else in the world. But what kept us here is the most important, is this tolerance, is this way of living your life the way you would have lived it in your own place. And this is how you feel you are home. The openness and the fact that you can meet other people who are in the same situation like yours. So you are not the foreigner, the only one abroad among a society who is seeing you as always an outsider. So we always felt home, and this is how we settled, and everyone is recreating this place as home. And, and then one day you are watching with the news and you hear there is a minister of tolerance and there is a minister of happiness. And this is something that would tell you that you are really in the right place.
I love it, and it actually leads me to the line that I underlined in another one, The Gift of the Olive Tree by Hanifa Muslim.
Yeah.
Is she still here? Yes.
No, unfortunately.
Okay.
She's traveling.
And so the line says, at home, planting an olive tree is an act of love. So just in continuation of what you just said. And then she later on says, it takes a grandfather to plant it, a father to cultivate it, and generations to harvest it. And I can't help but imagine, you guys have laid down some roots here in
Absolutely.
the UAE. Do you feel like your children and your children's children will share similar stories about culture and tradition, but in the context of your time here, your new home?
I do believe so. I do believe so. I'm very assertive about it because our children do what we communicate to them. This is the message we give. We don't give it, it comes by itself. My children who live abroad now, when they talk about going, they live in their home, Italy. They are Italians. But then when they speak about home, they would tell you, Mom, when are we going back to Dubai? When are we visiting home? Even if we always think that the friends we have are the ones who are the new family for us. All their friends have traveled away. But home is where the memories have been built. This is where they have grown up. This is where they ate Algerian and Italian food and all the other countries' food. And this is where they have their memories.
Amazing.
So Hanifa, by the way, has an olive tree in her house in the UAE.
Oh, and it bears fruit here?
Yes.
Ooh,
So
wow.
the olive tree for her is very important.
Wow.
And I love, in the story, she speaks about she depicts the olive tree as a woman. The olive tree bears the fruits like give life, like the women give life. So this is why
it's amazing. And she talks about how the benefits of it,
amazing.
Just like a mother.
Absolutely.
It just fixes everything. Olive oil. It's the everything doer. I love it. I love this. I love this story.
And many of us, have the same ingredient, like olive oils. I use olive oil. The Italian do. So in our story, the olive oil came, the za'atar and olive oil for Jordan and Palestine. So it was, a recurrent. And when we were talking about the olives and the olive oils, everybody, was boiling because it was, a subject that was very interesting.
And you can't talk about olive oil without talking about za'atar, which is another one that is so close and dear to my heart.
Absolutely. And the belief that, that's I speak for Jumana, who always tells us, and I love this anecdote, where Jumana has always been she studies at night because she needs silence. It has to be completely silent. So she was studying at night and she was very young. So in the morning when she had an exam, the mother would ask her, did you sleep? And she would be honest and say, no, I had to study. So the mother goes, you have to eat za'atar now before going
because
brain,
right?
it is good for your brain. So now she believes in that, and we all have our share of, I also take my share of za'atar coming from her mom's and take it traveling with me to Italy, and I tell my children the same thing.
Amazing.
Eat za'atar, it's good for the brain.
Amazing. She talks about getting a spoon full of za'atar and having a spoon of za'atar. I don't know if anybody's done that before, but wow. That's a nice smile, big smile.
Yes, exactly.
In the morning. Amazing. Any more questions from the audience? Anybody have anything, any stories from? Please.
Yeah, you can tell us stories about what
you got. Stories from your past. Yeah. I don't think there was another question yet, but there will be.
I saw you looking the other way, so I thought someone else was doing. Well, I wanted to share a small story about memory and then ask a follow-up question. My daughter raised here all her life, but connects za'atar with Syria, with her summer visits to Syria.
Amazing.
And every time her grandmother is visiting us in Dubai, she asks her, what do you want from Syria? And she goes, I want a za'atar sandwich. This is when she was 2-3 years old. And up until 9 years old, she expected her grandmother to pack a za'atar sandwich with her and bring it from Syria to Dubai. And until now, she still, her grandmother jokes with her and tells her, do you want me to bring a za'atar sandwich with you? She goes, it's okay, Nana, we can make it here together now. So this was a small memory from her.
Fantastic.
I wanted to ask, I haven't read the book yet, but I'm assuming that all the memories are happy memories. Are there some of the recipes that are connected to maybe, I don't know, I don't want to say a sad memory because sometimes maybe it's not a happy one to want to relay, but it could be something that also connects to recipes and food that you share.
I agree with you. Thank you. Definitely, when you write the story, they are happy. Of course, we focused on the happy moments. But definitely, when personally I was writing my story, my grandmother passed away. She's not here anymore. And it is while writing the story, time flies, and I have many, I have a piece of jewelry that I always wear from her. I always have something from my grandmother and my grandfather, wherever. I always have them present with me, with anything. The thing is, when I was writing the story, I really missed her. And that was a little bit of a sad moment. So yes, when the memories are triggered, it's not only the happy moments, but there are also sad moments, but you celebrate them. That's the difference. The difference between thinking of a grandmother who passed away, or a father or mother or whoever, or whom you miss, we don't have that sadness. On the contrary, I felt happy and I was celebrating her through the memories I had with her. So this is why I felt, that and it was not done on purpose. And we never wrote these stories to be published. We wrote them for ourselves. We wrote them to share them with each other and, to tell stories. It was like storytelling. So we never thought of the reader who maybe would be sad reading this. But we never expressed the sadness. It means that we were really celebrating their memories.
And when you read the book, I'll give you a line from one of the stories by Janni Nielsen. So she talks about this word. She's from Denmark, and she talks about this word called huga, and it's the atmosphere or the feeling of goodness, which is exactly what you're saying, Naouel. These memories, they trigger this feeling of goodness, and you forget that sometimes, yes, these people are not around or something might have gone wrong. It just kind of conjures up this positiveness. Great story as well. I really enjoyed reading that one as well.
Beautiful story. Yanni, I met her. She was a parent at the same school where my children were. And we were part of the group of the parents' board. And she was a kind of a timid person. When we meet, even if she had to complain, she wouldn't. And friendship grew up through the children. The children grew up, left, but we kept in touch. And when I called her, and I said, Yanni, don't you want to tell a story about, any memory of food? And she goes, but we don't have a national dish in Denmark. And I said, but we're not looking for a national dish. And I said, but I don't know what it took me like a month. I knew she had something to say. I knew she had memories, but we never knew anything about her. So it was a time maybe for her. And then at the end, this story happened, and she was writing and sending me all her draft, and I was amazed. Fantastic. And I said, oh my God, you see it? She said, oh, it's something magical. The more I write, the more I remember, the more I feel like writing.
Oh, I love that whole line, and I think that's brilliant. Very, very important. The more I write, the more I feel, the more it triggers, and I think that's a beautiful thing. Very relevant to where we are today and why we're here today.
Absolutely.
So that's brilliant.
Absolutely.
I want to go back to the crowd. Yes, we got a question over here. Daisy.
Oh, this is one of the perks of the job, isn't it? I want to share with you just one very, very quick thing. I'm Irish. I don't sound Irish. I had it not beaten out of me, but I was advised that I didn't speak with an Irish accent because it would get me nowhere. But in Ireland, the saying is, eat up your grannies, because that is where you have all the memories, and your memories that you're sharing with all these wonderful ladies. I'm just sitting here thinking of my granny, and I'm quite hungry now as well. One thing I wanted to ask, so that we could share with the audience, is that I know that you have books at the fair so we can go and buy them. So I would really, really like to give the audience a chance to go and purchase those and then tuck themselves in a corner with something lovely to eat and enjoy them. So if you could share that with us, that would be lovely. Thank you.
Yeah. So the books are here in the in As-Saqi. It's right there. The books are being sold here. We can sign the books. We can meet you personally. We will be sitting there signing your books, and I can answer your questions. I can dedicate the books. Now, Daisy, I wanted to tell you something. This is not the first book that we wrote. We, with the Readers Majlis little group, we wrote a book called Footprints. It was sold, I don't know, I think it's sold out, but it was sold by Magrudi's. They might have some copies, I'm not sure. And one of the co-writers was Irish. And she wrote about the Christmas leftovers that you eat the day after at lunchtime, and they are the best thing she ever used to eat. So yeah, we had
Amazing, amazing. And maybe if you have some great stories, if there's anybody out there, reach out to Naouel. Maybe you could be part of the next book. All right, so we love some great stories. A couple more questions over here. Madam over here, and then the gentleman afterwards.
Hello.
Hi.
So I'm from India. I've lived most of my life here by now, but so your book is about food and culture, and it's amazing, by the way. But in India, the relationship between food and culture is that it's a symbol of hospitality. So whenever someone comes to your house, you give them tea, you give them snacks, you kind of just force food onto them until they leave, right? And that's our culture there, and I love it. I wanted to ask, what's your favorite part about the food culture here in UAE? What significance does it have to you?
Thank you for the question. This is exactly, I think this is a common ground between India and what happens here. What happens also in my country that I didn't, and what happens in Italy, the places I have lived and I'm from. Here, eating, you know, there are many people who come as visitors, and they are actually appalled by the fact that you are served food all the time. But, you know, I really appreciate that. Sharing food, as you said earlier, we say khubz u milh. You know, we share bread and salt. And what I found here, this generosity, and what they call it in Arabic, I can't find a word in English, please help me, al-karam. You know, this extreme generosity that you find here, where people are always serving food to you. But it is not to show off or to show you their food, but it is a way to welcome you in their culture, and it's a way to tell you, you know, we are all one. Let's share this food together. So yes, what you are saying is very common in many places of the world. And this is a place where, for example, my children, as you, grew up here, and I'm glad they did, because they have learned this. And now, talking about packing the manaish and the za'atar, if I tell you what I pack from here to take to my children to the UAE, you will really... They crave the lugimat.
Oh,
now
yeah.
tell me how you pack lugimat and you take them up to Italy.
Oh my God.
I do.
You've done that?
I do.
Oh, interesting.
I freeze them, I take them frozen,
fantastic.
and then I take them out, put them in the oven, and then put
It's amazing, and it depends on the type of legumat you make, I guess.
Yeah.
You know,
But
because there's all sorts, right? There's the full crispy, there's the full soft, there's the crispy on the outside and the soft on the inside. There's a lot of them, but
they would eat them even iced.
Let me tell you. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Let me give you another another secret thing you guys can. Have you heard of Dolce De Leche?
Of course.
Dolce De Leche on legumat.
That's something I would try.
So try that out. Yeah, you heard it here first at the Abu Dhabi Book Fair. All right. We have another question from the gentleman.
Hi, I am Dr. Jamaluddin.
Nice to meet you.
A warm congratulations from an author to the author.
Oh, amazing.
Me and my wife, Dr. Aisha, we authored a book on agriculture, farming and gardening.
Oh, fantastic. Brilliant.
The main inspiration came from none other than Sheikh Zayed, rahimahullah. May Allah bless him. And the first chapter is dedicated for Sheikh Zayed.
Amazing.
And we are inspired by his famous words like, give me agriculture, I will guarantee a civilization.
Amazing, amazing.
A story, we were actively involved in community gardening in Shahama. I still remember one day, I secretly came to know that day was her birthday, my wife. So we celebrated with a watermelon we collected from the community garden.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fantastic.
So talking about recipes, everything. So the food, fruits, and whatever we are obtaining from the produce from the garden, it will become part of the life itself.
Oh, fantastic.
So we are trying to share our experience, which we will like
This is
just to
amazing.
give a copies to you,
Fantastic.
inshallah. So maybe another small story about Sheikh Zayed Rahimullah himself. I heard this story when he visited a country outside of UAE. So he usually go there every year. One of such occasions, he just threw some seeds to the birds. So day after day, the number of birds increased the number. Okay, and it became a huge mass of birds in front of him, or in front of a coffee shop. So when they are able to come back to UAE the day before, so Sheikh Zaram Rahimullah, he was asking to his manager, what will happen to these birds tomorrow? Who will feed them? So the manager was without any reply. So
Amazing.
he asked him, arrange the manager of the cafe
Yeah.
to arrange the feed every day and ask him how much it cost. And he arranged that much money until he returned to that place next year.
MashaAllah,
This is
tabarakallah.
the story of ethics or whatever you can tell. The young generation need to study from this great leader.
Amazing,
Absolutely.
amazing.
Yes, I think next time we will do a panel together because our stories connect very well. You
It's
know,
amazing.
it's from what we gather from the earth that we can cook our yeah.
Amazing, amazing. And that is brilliant. So we're just
I'll
we're
do
just
it when
going
I-
to
yeah.
maybe we'll meet after. Thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
that. And I think this farming and home farming and things like that. This is the present and the future. I love it. I'm about to build something in my garden as well to start doing all my spices there. But unfortunately, this was a great conversation, but that's all we have time for. So I'd like to give a big thank you to Mrs. Naouel Chaoui, please.
Thank you.
Abu Dhabi Book Fair, thank you so much for having us, and thank you very much for spending your time here with us. I hope you enjoyed as much as I did personally.
I really enjoyed it. Thank you. I really loved sharing it with you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being with us. And our books are found here. If you want to purchase the book, you're more welcome, and I will be ready to sign them for you. Thank you
Fantastic.
very much.
Have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Brilliant.